Everyone, and welcome to tonight's call with Congresswoman Bonnie Watson Coleman. Now, during tonight's call, we'll be taking questions from constituents like you. To ask a question, please press *3 on your telephone keypad to enter the question queue. You can also sign up for our newsletter by pressing *6 at any time during this call. Again, please press *3 to ask a question or *6 to subscribe to our newsletter. And with that, I'll turn it over to Congresswoman Bonnie Watson Coleman. Congresswoman, the floor is yours, ma'am.
Well, thank you, Dirk, and hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining this end-of-the-year Tele-town hall on behalf of the 12th Congressional District of New Jersey. I'm holding this town hall to update you on the work that I've done in Washington and in the district this year, and to answer any questions that you may have. I'm doing this as a way to keep our work in Congress as transparent and as plain as possible. Everyone is affected in some way by this process. And I hope that our town hall this evening provides you with clarity and an opportunity to get your important questions answered. Since Republicans took over the majority in January, this has proven to be one of the least productive Congresses in recent history. We had 30 voting weeks scheduled for this Congress. Republicans spent 4 of those weeks just deciding who would be the Speaker for the House. They then added 5 weeks to the voting schedule, which meant that I had less time to be in the district. However, we have made the most of it. In April, Interior Secretary Deb Haaland visited the old barracks with us. The Old Barracks Museum in Trenton, which had just received a $750,000 grant for restoration. The Old Barracks will be the centerpiece of America's 250th anniversary celebration, where I'm proud to say I'm part of the commission in representing New Jersey. The next day, the Transportation Secretary, Pete Buttigieg, visited the Trenton Mercer Airport to discuss with local officials the renewal and the updates to the terminal, as well as priorities like the Gateway project. In addition, we were able to secure funding for the Delaware River Basin Commission, one of the most successful river cleanup projects in the country. I also led a bipartisan team to prevent that funding from being stripped by several pro-fracking Republicans who don't even live along the Delaware. In addition, we secured over $630,000 for doula training in the district to bring down the infant and maternal mortality rates, which are especially high among African American and Hispanic communities. Also, this year we were able, and we're very excited about this, to secure full federal funding for the Greenbrook Sub-Basin Flood Control Project. After years of delayed funding in the last 2 years, we were able to secure almost $500 million to complete this project, which would prevent much of the flooding we saw after Hurricane Ida. This year, my district office has been very busy. It held 4 constituent resource fairs across the district. They also held 5 passport clinics, which helped over 400 people with either acquiring a new passport or renewing theirs. We've also held 7 hybrid office hours in every part of the district, and in addition, we took part in Veteran Services Expos and other targeted events. The chaos that has been caused by the Republican infighting and the backstabbing did not prevent us and some of my colleagues from introducing some very important legislation, including with other Republicans on the more reasonable wing of the party. The Public Housing Fire Safety Act, which I introduced with Republican John Rutherford of Florida, would help retrofit hundreds of the nation's older public housing units with modern sprinkler systems. Mr. Rutherford and I have also introduced the Helper Act, which would help first responders and teachers purchase their first home. I also worked with Congressman Keene to introduce and pass the One Stop Ride Act to shorten the commute times for our Somerset and Middlesex County residents. My bipartisan and bicameral Youth Mental Health Research Act to create a national youth mental health research initiative to guide long-term mental health recovery efforts and to better target preventive interventions for those at risk of developing mental health challenges and improve their treatments for children was an important piece of legislation for us. My Work to Save Lives Act would see OSHA providing guidance to employers on acquiring and maintaining opioid overdose reversal medication and to train employees on an annual basis on the uses of such medication. In addition, I introduced the Improving Diaper Affordability Act, which would make the purchase of diapers tax-free and reimbursable through the health savings accounts. Diapers are a necessity. They are not a luxury, and this legislation will help keep our babies healthy. Speaking of healthy babies, the Healthy Mom Act will help fight the infant and maternal mortality crisis by allowing families to change their health insurance when they become pregnant by making it a qualifying life event, as well as guaranteeing 12 months of continuous Medicaid coverage of postpartum women. Some of my environmental legislation includes the SHADE Act to combat urban heat islands, which can cause temperatures in urban centers that lack trees to exceed those of nearby tree-lined urban and suburban neighborhoods by as much as 12 degrees. Also this year, Senator Sanders and I introduced the Water Act. We've seen water crisis in cities across the country, including here in New Jersey. And due to a combination of climate change, outdated infrastructure, and systemic disinvestment in our most vulnerable communities, millions of Americans risk losing access to clean water. The Water Act is a comprehensive bill to expand access to clean, safe, and affordable drinking water. And finally, I want to talk about some pieces of legislation that could fundamentally improve the lives of working families. My bill for a guaranteed income pilot program and a guaranteed jobs legislation would guarantee a pilot program which would study the impact of a guaranteed income program on reducing poverty and increasing the standard of living, one of our core issues. My Workforce Promotion and Access Act, the WPA, would help Americans in high unemployment areas get back to work in living wage jobs through grants to states or localities where the unemployment is greater than 10% or double the national unemployment rate. The resulting jobs targeted to local needs like child care or elder care and infrastructure would be paid at least $15 per hour and ensure every adult age 18 or older is eligible. Before I turn it over to our moderator, who's going to be helping with the technical side of things, I want to reiterate that this is an opportunity for me and my office to hear directly from you all. Members of my staff will be taking each of your calls throughout the program, and I do look forward to hearing what you have to say. So welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you very much, Congresswoman. And I know we've had a number of constituents join in the last few minutes. I want to remind everyone, if you have a question you would like to ask, please press *3 on your telephone keypad to enter the question queue. And did you know that the Congresswoman and her staff send out an e-newsletter to keep you informed? You can sign up for that newsletter right now by pressing 1 on your telephone keypad. Again, to join the Congresswoman's e-newsletter, please press the 1 key on your phone right now. We're about to get into our live Q&A just a little bit later in this call. But before we do that, I'd like to begin by asking Congresswoman Watson Coleman some questions that were submitted in advance of this call. We're going to do that, like I say, before we're opening the floor for the live Q&A portion of this call. So, Congresswoman, are you ready for a few questions?
I am.
Wonderful. So we're going to start with the question of, is there a piece of legislation that you have introduced that you are particularly proud of? And is there one that you'll be introduced in 2024 that you're excited to announce?
So the one that I think I'm particularly proud of is a result of a lot of work on a special task force looking at suicide rates and mental health for minority youth. And that legislation is called Pursuing Equity in Mental Health. and it does a number of things, including more research in the issues, more support for students studying in the areas, and more community engagement and more educational effort for teachers and other kinds of administrators. And that is really a very important piece of legislation, because I think that as a result of the work that we did in that area, the whole issue of mental health has become quite a talkative issue on the Hill. The piece of legislation, or the two pieces, I think, which are companion pieces that I really would like to pursue, speak to my fundamental belief that poverty is something that can be eliminated if we do the right things. And two of the things that I think would help to eliminate poverty is a guaranteed income pilot program, where you give selected people money on a monthly basis, and you kind of track. You don't tell them how to spend it, but you track how it's spent, and you track how the impact has changed their family dynamic and the healthiness of their family. And the other one is a guaranteed jobs program, where the federal government would give states and other localities grants to do jobs that are related to the needs of the community, whether it's elder care or child care or infrastructure. And the jobs would be at minimally $15 an hour, and would be opportunities for anyone 18 years of age and older. I think by doing those kinds of things together, we can put a serious dent in poverty.
Thank you very much, Congresswoman. And I notice we have got a tremendous response of people on this call with us. And I'd like to ask everybody that's joined us for this call to take a moment and use your telephone keypad to register your opinion on a poll question. Again, just use your keypad to register your answer here. And the question is, which of these have you contacted our office about? Please press the number 1 key if it's for tour requests, the Capitol of the White House. Press the number 2 key if it's for an internship opportunity. Use the number 3 key for Service Academy nominations. Press the number 4 key for congressional commendations and proclamations. And press the number 5 key if you call the office for a flag request. So again, which of these have you contacted our office about? 1, tour request for the Capitol of the White House. 2, internship opportunities. 3, Service Academy nominations. 4, congressional commendations and proclamations. Or 5, for flag requests. I see a number of people are registering their opinion and their choice there. Thank you very much for participating in our first poll question of the evening. Next, we'd like to get back to a couple of questions that came in before the event. So, Congresswoman, as you just mentioned, mental health in your answer to the previous question, since you've long been a champion of mental health equity, how does Congress continue the work towards a more inclusive and comprehensive mental health care system?
Thanks for that question. I think that what we are seeing is that there is increased interest in the issues of mental health and how they affect people across the spectrum, the age spectrum, the economic spectrum, whatever might be your particular situation. And there are programs that are paying better attention. What we need is to be more robust in our research, more robust in supporting our students who are looking to work in those areas, and to educate our communities more, all of which requires more spending on behalf of those issues. And that's where I think my being on the Appropriations Committee is very important, because I can highlight not only the need, but the impact of supporting these programs and supporting these initiatives, so that we can get a better handle on having direct services and information and education available to those who need it.
Thank you very much for your answer, and we'll come back in just another moment with a few more questions. But we had such a tremendous response to that poll question a moment ago. I'd like to continue on by asking everyone that's on the line with us to use your telephone keypad to respond to this question. And it is, which of these have you received help from my district office in Ewing. So the Congresswoman's office there in Ewing was, if it's Veterans Affairs Assistance, please press 1, Immigration, 2, for passports help, 3, IRS questions, 4, and press 5 for Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. So again, use your telephone keypad to register in here so that we know the services that we're providing are important to you. And so which of these have you received help from my district office in Ewing? 1, Veterans Affairs Assistance. 2, Immigration. 3, Passport. 4, IRS. 5, Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. I see a number of people are taking the time to answer that question. Thank you very much for your participation. And now let's get more information from your Congresswoman. And Congresswoman, in light of the ongoing conflict in Israel and Gaza, could you share your thoughts on what you're seeing and what your hope is for an eventual resolution that addresses the human impact in a meaningful way?
What we experienced on October the 7th when Hamas did that terrible, horrific assault upon the people of Israel, the children, the babies, the elder, and took hostages. That's the worst, horrific thing that we've seen from terrorists in a very, very long time, I guess in our lifetime. And then what we see as a result of it and in response to it is the devastation of the Palestinian communities, which is heartbreaking to see. Hamas using innocent people as shields behind which they hide. Innocent people just getting caught up in the fire that is being hurled at Gaza. The destruction of like over 50 or 60% of the infrastructure. The percentage of people that are homeless and have nowhere to go. It is the most frightening thing that I have seen in my lifetime. And innocent people in Israel and innocent people in Gaza are being affected. And so what do I want to see? I want to see peace. I want to see more diplomacy. I want to see a pause in the firing and the extension of humanitarian aid into Gaza. I want to see a very robust and serious discussion about how do these two peoples live side by side in peace and security and prosperity and dignity and respect, because they're both deserving of it. Of course, Israel deserves the state, the state of Israel. Of course, the Palestinian people deserve their state as well. And all of us, from the United States to our allies, to any other country that has demonstrated an interest and a humanitarian concern here, wants to see peace. And so if you ask me, what is my prayer for them? It is peace. It is a release of the hostages, and it is normalcy between these two peoples.
Amen, Congresswoman. So recently we've seen a lot of your work and outreach for the CBC Task Force on Health, Nutrition, and Well-Being that you're leading with Congressman Don Davis, as well as Congressional Caucus on Black Women and Girls, of which you are a co-founder and co-chair. What do you hope to accomplish in these spaces in the next year, ma'am?
Well, so the task force on nutrition that we're looking at in food insecurity, it is important to raise the issues about the various programs that are available, that the gaps in services that exist, and to talk with both those who represent the USDA as well as other experts in the area about the impact of a good diet on a healthy living environment. The issue with Black women and girls is that we've used that as a means of having discussions in issues that have not been heard or have been marginalized that affect Black women, from the Crown Act to menopause, to fibroids, to other health issues, to social justice issues and opportunity. to looking at the policies that affect Black women and how if you eliminate the barriers and those policies, to how it lifts every boat up. And so we're very concerned about raising the level of discussion and discord in those areas that affect communities that haven't always been given a fair shake in terms of policy or response. And you asked me a very important question that, like, I assume everybody knows about me as it relates to Gaza and Israel. And I refer to it as both of them living side by side, Palestinians and Israelis living side by side in peace and prosperity and security and safety. But that's known as a two-state solution. And that's the way I think that we should be moving in that direction. And that is something that has eluded us for decades. But now more than ever, it needs to be fully pressed, fully discussed, and we need to use all of our diplomatic forces and allies to present this as an alternative to the devastation that we're seeing.
Thank you very much, Congresswoman, for your answer to the previous question, as well as the coming back around to amplify the importance to you in Israel-Gaza. I'd like to borrow everybody once again for another poll question. I do appreciate your participation in these. Again, you just use your telephone keypad to submit your reply here. And so the question is, which of these bills that the Congresswoman has introduced do you think would impact you the most? Press 1 for the PAID Act. Press 2 for the Water Act. Press 3 for Jobs Guarantee Act. Press 4 for Public Housing Fire Safety Act. Press 5 for the Stop Online Ammunition Sales Act. Press 6 if you feel it's something other. So again, which of these bills that the Congresswoman has introduced do you think would impact you the most? 1, the PAID Act. Press 2, Water Act. Press 3 for the Jobs Guarantee Act. Press 4 for Public Housing Fire Safety Act. Press 5 for the Stop Ammunition Sales Act, Online Ammunition Sales Act, and press 6 if you feel it's something other. I see a number of people. Matter of fact, a few more people are participating in this question, so thank you to everyone for taking the time to respond. And Congresswoman, back to you with another couple of questions as we get ready for the live Q&A portion of this call. Again, this is a live telephone town hall with Congresswoman Bonnie Watson Coleman. And if you've got a question you'd like to ask, all you need to do is press star 3 on your telephone keypad to enter the question queue. You can also sign up right now for the Congresswoman's e-newsletter by pressing star 6. Now, Congresswoman, you've spoken many times on the need for a floor below which we should never allow any child, family, or person to fall. Now, what does this mean for the type of work you do in Congress, and what do you think must happen for your vision to become a reality?
I believe that government has a very specific responsibility to all of our citizens and all of those who are living and happen to be in the United States of America. Government is supposed to be the safety net for those who need it. Now, there are some people who are doing quite well, and I appreciate that fact and respect that they are. But there are a greater number of people who are suffering because they have inadequate access to food, they have inadequate access to housing, they have inadequate income to meet their needs, they have no access to childcare, they can't even afford the insurance on the cars that they need to drive if they have a job. So I think that the work that I need to continue to do has to address those issues. It has to be things like the child tax credit. It has to be things like the earned income tax credit being extended to those who take care of people who are in their family and are ill, and those who are students and have responsibility as well. It is also the two things that I talked about, the guaranteed jobs bill and the guaranteed income bill. And it is any bill that ensures that there is sufficient SNAP and WIC services and resources that go to families, and that we have improved these programs by ensuring that fruits and vegetables and other nutritious foods are available. And we need to do whatever we can to ensure that fewer people are experiencing food deserts by making sure that there is access to food. And so, as I said before, poverty is not something that can defeat us. It is a choice that we have to make as government to say we'll not have this in the richest country in the world. And so that might mean that those who are blessed with billions and super millions may have to give up a little bit more. But it also means the government has to not tie hands so much when it does put resources out and gives people the opportunity to meet the needs of their family as they see them.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Now, I'd like to ask if you could share a bit about your responsibilities as a member of the House Committee on Appropriations and what it means for you to be the only appropriator from the state of New Jersey.
So that is a very important committee, and I am the only New Jerseyan on that committee, so it means that I've got to look out for the kinds of support that we need from the Gateway Tunnel up in North Jersey all the way down to what South Jersey needs in terms of resources, as well as focusing on our 12th congressional district. We determine how much money and how it is to be spent. And my responsibility is to ensure that we are applying our resources where they're most needed, and that we're not engaging in the kind of poison pills that the Republicans have been foisting upon these funding bills, like the elimination of CRT, the elimination of diversity, equity, and inclusion, when they don't even apply. We need to make sure that our judicial system is properly funded, and that we're not spending money on new and private prisons, but we're spending money on alternatives and options for people. That we're not treating drug addiction as a felony, but we're treating it as a health issue, and ensuring that the resources are there to help people to overcome their addiction. There's so much work that needs to be done, and government has a responsibility to be in that space. And where we spend our money is a reflection of our values. And my values will always be to lift up those who are the least among us.
Thank you, Congresswoman, for that answer. And I know I've got a lot of people eager to get in with their questions, and I feel like I'm bouncing around a little bit, but I have one more question for you, ma'am. And that is, what are some of the challenges you and your colleagues have faced this Congress? And what are some of the accomplishments you've been able to achieve despite these setbacks?
So I'm going to talk about the accomplishments first, because it is because of the Democratic solidarity in voting on 2 occasions. We stopped the debt ceiling problem, which would have impacted our economy and our standing in the world. And we also avoided a shutdown. And so those are the 2 things that Democrats had been necessarily required to participate in, because Republicans who were in the majority didn't want to vote for either one of those things. So our issue is that we are now in a minority, even though the numbers are slim, the differential between Republicans and Democrats. And my Republican colleagues are following sort of a Trump agenda, where they're seeking to divide, to weaponize issues, to do things that are not advancing the needs of our people. They're not lowering our costs and not ensuring that there's health care and that there's access to prescription drugs and things of that nature. They're looking to tear apart the health care programs and Social Security and things of that nature. So our greatest challenge is to fight that off as much as possible. And thank God we have a Democratic-controlled Senate, even though that's a very slim margin of majority, so that some of these very hurtful pieces of legislation that have passed on the Republican side that do nothing to make life better for everyday families in this country won't get to the president's desk because it gets stopped at the Senate.
Thank you again, Congresswoman. Now, before we get to the live questions, do you have any thoughts or remarks that you'd like to make now, ma'am?
Well, I want to thank everyone for being on here thus far, and I look forward to the questions that they're going to ask. I just want to impress upon everyone that, you hear this hue and cry, save democracy, democracy is vulnerable. And I'm here to tell you that that's just not a slogan, that we have to stand up for democracy. Democracy ensures that everyone is treated equally and that everyone's needs are addressed, predicated upon their needs, and that we as a country are humane and believe in NATO and other allies, and we believe in legal immigration, and we're a country that has always embraced the diversity of people, whether or not it's diversity of race, religion, ethnicity, or even who you love. And so all of those issues are on the table for us, and we are trying very hard as a solid bloc in the House of Representatives to fight back on those issues, and at the same time to advance legislation that does look at Social Security and expanding it, not contracting it, and that looks at ensuring that there's health care and that prescription drugs are available and affordable, and that just insulin, so commonly used, is available and affordable. It's the difference between night and day within our Congress, and Republicans represent the night, and we represent the hopefulness of the sun bursting on the horizon.
Thank you for that, Congresswoman. And now for everybody that's on the line with us, that's joined us for this live telephone town hall with Congresswoman Bonnie Watson Coleman, well, it's time for your turn to speak and ask questions. *3 if you've got a question you'd like to ask. That gets you into the question queue. Again, *3 on your telephone keypad is what you need to press. You can also join the Congresswoman's e-newsletter by pressing *6. Let's head out to North Plainfield. We've got Jerry joining us on the line. Jerry, you are live with Congresswoman Watson Coleman. What's your question? Hello, Jerry, are you there? Like we've need to come back around to Jerry. This does happen occasionally. We appreciate everyone's patience while we are going through the questions earlier in the call. We're off to Princeton Junction, and we've got Walt on the line with us. Walt, welcome to the call. Yes. What is your question?
Yes, thank you so much, Congressman Coleman, for this corridor to talk to you. We rarely have this opportunity, and I want to say kudos for doing this. My question and in asking about our veterans, I note a lot of times I'm a retired state inspector, and I notice I live in the Princeton Junction area that I've watched our roads be repaired and some of our bridges, small bridges that is, on the small road service. And I was wondering if there's any way you could have a conversation with your constituents in helping our veterans with jobs after they had guarded our country and then they come home and can't find anything that would be called payback. I note, and at the same time, I thought of a couple of ideas. Maybe we would consider putting some of these jobs where the traffic control, I note, and I'm not trying to put anybody out of jobs, but add 2 jobs with our veterans where they could work, those that are mobile, with the slowing down and speeding up of traffic where these roads are repairs. Then another idea is probably placing those who can, those veterans, and use them as deterrents. To be posted somewhere or somehow at our schools when schools are coming in and as well as going out. And that would probably be maybe a deterrent for some of this mass shooting cancer that's going on. And as well as our libraries, our veterans deserve so much more, and they have held our gates closed and kept us like a baby's diaper. And I think what we should do is at least consider finding a way to keeping their gates open with uh, un, an unlimited payback service. So if that's possible, that would be a great idea if they would give that conversation some room.
Hey, Walt, thank you for that question. And you're absolutely right. We can't give enough back to veterans for keeping us safe at home and for the sacrifices they make and the sacrifice their family makes. And I know that while we've done a lot of legislation, even bipartisan legislation that increase services and opportunities and things of that nature to veterans, to my knowledge, there isn't a job specific kind of not set aside, but goal for veterans per se. Although the president says that, with his Infrastructure Act and his Inflation Reduction Act, that he wanted to make sure that underserved communities were getting a piece of the action, the jobs, and even some of the business opportunities. Let me look into this because I think that any able-bodied veteran that wants a job should obviously have a certain star next to his or her name that says this is someone that you really want to consider hiring or using. And there are so many projects going on right now that, to my knowledge, we may be doing a better job than we think we are, but maybe we could do an even better job. And I could look into that, and perhaps we could send a letter to the Defense Department, to the veterans agencies to encourage the use of veterans on our projects. Thank you for bringing that up. That's a very important issue.
Our next question comes from Karen in Old Bridge. Karen, you're live on the call. What is your question?
Yes. Hi. My name is Karen. I'm from Old Bridge. And my concern is, this has been for a while now, my concern is in the school systems across the board in New Jersey, especially in the area of special education. There seems to be a big discrepancy across the board in how the money is funneled into our schools in New Jersey, regardless of the township. Dyslexia is a reading disability. It's a neurological disability that many of our New Jersey students are suffering from. They are not getting the appropriate help. They are not even getting the appropriate supports within the public schools after they are even given an evaluation. How do I know this? I'm a parent. I'm also a school teacher. It is not the teacher's fault. Their hands are tied. They keep telling them that they tell parents off the record that they can't even say anything because they will get in trouble for making the recommendation because there's no money to pay to have certain reading programs in the schools. So parents, and I'm talking middle-class working parents in New Jersey, have to pay $150 to $160 an hour for tutoring, for specialized reading tutoring, when this should be in the schools. Dyslexia and other reading disabilities and learning disabilities and autism is very high in New Jersey, and I just don't see the supports and the money going where it should. How can you address this? There's tons of superintendents. There's tons of assistant superintendents and deputy superintendents, but yet the teachers get paid minimal. They don't get raises, and they're not fostering any sort of special programs for these children. What are your thoughts?
I can't agree with you more. I know that the various programs that the federal government funds and sends money down to the states to administer the education programs, while it may be a lot of money, it may not be enough. But how that money is spent and how that money is allocated is really something that the state of New Jersey is in charge of, and it needs to be addressed through the State Board of Education, the State Department of Education, and the governor's office. We really don't get that involved in how the money is spent specifically in schools. We get involved with sending the money targeted for certain things. But if indeed you're finding that there is insufficient application of the resources that are supposed to be used for that purpose and not being used, then I would suggest that you contact even your state representatives, the senator and the assembly representatives from your district, as well as the chairman of the education committee in both the Senate and the assembly.
Next, we're going to go out to Skillman. We've got Shailja joining us on the line. I hope I pronounced that right. Shailja, welcome to the call.
Thank you, and thank you, Congresswoman. This was very enlightening call, and thanks for doing this. I also want to thank you for your support for women's health, mental health, and maternal mental health. I want to thank and recognize, the reintroduction of Healthy Mom Act. I'm a physician and entrepreneur here in Skillman area, very passionate about maternal mental health. New Jersey, according to the report from March of Dimes, performs better than other states, but we still have many areas that continue to be maternal health desert, meaning we don't have enough therapists, we don't have enough physicians to take care of mom's mental health. I believe that there has to be more aggressive, tactical programs put in place to make sure that we can take care of this access issue that still continues to exist in the state of New Jersey in certain counties. I would love to hear your thoughts about that how we are putting together any pilot programs that embrace technology and other aspects to take care of maternal mental health and overcome the access issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Doctor. So the intersection of maternal health and mental health is, we're finding as we're getting into just exploring the impact of mental health now, that is an issue. And we need to be looking at it and supporting it to the extent possible. We have been putting more resources into both of those issues, mental health and maternal health, but I'm not sure about the intersection. And that's something that I'd like to look into for you and perhaps get back to you on what I find and perhaps on what I think we should be doing in the future, because that's an interesting intersection that you raised with me today. So let me look into that for you. And if my office has your contact information, we'll get back to you.
Thank you very much, Congresswoman. And a quick reminder to everyone that's on the line with us, now is a great time to press *6 on your telephone keypad to get enrolled in the Congresswoman's e-newsletter, the distribution list. So again, get the e-newsletter from the Congresswoman by pressing *6 right now on your telephone keypad. Heading out to Franklin Park, we're joined by Andrew. Hello, Andrew. You're live with Congresswoman Watson Coleman. What is your question?
Good evening, Congresswoman. Thank you for taking my question. My question is about reproductive rights, because we now live in an era in which Roe v. Wade is gone, and as the days go by, you hear about this story and that story and so forth about how women's rights are getting attacked. And of course, the fall of Roe v. Wade affects more than just women. It affects everyone else too, men included, because of the fact that contraception is not just a woman's job, it's a man's job too. It takes two. And of course, there's plenty of men, even younger men around my age and younger, who know they do not want to have kids. So because of the way the Supreme Court is going and the way the Republican Party is going these days, it seems as though they want to also eventually ban contraception as well. Now, if you're someone who does not want to have kids, then yeah, I mean, they have no business trying to control another person's life, especially one's reproductive life and whatnot, their reproductive autonomy. So what kind of things are you doing in Congress to make sure that we get to keep our reproductive autonomy and, be, freestanding in our decision to not want to have kids, if, let's just say, if that's our decision? Because, I've already, taken matters into my own hands by handling that surgically, because I've known for many years, even since my mid-teens, I don't want to be a parent. So, yeah, I'm sure there are plenty of other people who feel the same way that I do. So what's being done in Congress to prevent this kind of tragic turn from happening?
Well, I think that this is a question about what are you finding that the Republican Party is saying about reproductive rights and access to conception medicine? And you'll find that Democrats have both a bill to ensure reproductive rights for women. We are trying to protect access to medication that will help to prevent pregnancies. But right now, we're in a tough situation. We've got a Republican majority in the House that's hell bent on just eliminating a woman's right or even a family's right, because you're right, it does affect more than just a woman. And we don't need men to have to take such drastic measures as, surgical measures to ensure that they're not impregnating someone when there are so many safe ways. We're doing everything we can to make sure that they have access to that medication and access to the right to decide when or if to expand their families.
So next, we're heading off to Monroe Township. We've got Susan joining us on the line. Welcome to the call, Susan. For some reason, I'm having trouble with my button. Let me try this one more time. And I just lost Susan. Oh no. I apologize, Susan. If we can get you to press *3 and get back in. My system did lock up on me for just a second. Again, all you need to do is press *3 if you've got a question you'd like to ask, and I promise I won't hang up on one more person. I can't do that. It's the holiday season. Rebecca in Monroe, please save me from this. Actually, Annie, would you bring Rebecca up?
Hello.
Rebecca, are you there?
Hello.
Yes, hello. My name is
Perfect.
Rebecca Cassius. I live in an over 55 community in Monroe. What a pleasant way, a beautiful surprise to hear from you all this way. My question is the landmine we have to do if you overflood the side and trying to get into affordable housing. I know the fees up front, you don't get them back. But then their communication back to you is not clear and timely, so you lose your fees. Example, the Nessa Arms apartment in Princeton, New Jersey, I paid $385 for them to hold an apartment if I got one. And I sent in all the paperwork. 2 days later, he said I need 3 years of income tax. I was getting that together. Then he told me, you didn't get it to me in 48 hours. You can't get your $385 back in the apartment you can't get. So I don't know. There's a lot of us looking for apartments over 55. I don't know if it could be better. But the money we lose doing that at our age is impossible.
So, Rebecca, I'm not sure that that's the right thing to be happening. What I would like you to do is I'd like you to contact my district office at 609-883-0026 and talk to one of my constituent relations staff members and let us look into that, because that doesn't sound right.
Usher 385. What not?
My
We're gonna
district
move on
office
right now. Oh,
Okay.
Go ahead, Congresswoman. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say the number again is 609-883-0026. And I think that that's an issue that a case manager needs to look at.
Thank you very much. Now let's go to Ewing. We've got Justine on the line with us. Justine, go ahead with your question, please.
Thank you for making yourself accessible, Congresswoman. Very grateful. I have a very huge concern, having worked in pharmaceuticals myself, also having volunteered in the community for the state of New Jersey and local communities with the opioid crisis. Well aware of what's happening in the industry. We have become cripplingly dependent on China, and New Jersey once held the kind of the title of being the Silicon Valley of the pharmaceutical industry, and we've lost tremendous amounts of revenue and jobs as this has gone on. My deep concern is we are facing critical shortages throughout the entire country not just with diabetic supplies, but of all kinds of medications. And we're in a very compromised position because if we have to have access to these medications and we can only be getting them from China, what are we doing to bring the industry back? What are we doing to, it's very difficult. What are we doing to protect our interests? And we have the ability to produce all of these things right here in the United States. My concern is, why have we relinquished the controls, and what are we going to do to bring it back? And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Justine. So I think you're absolutely right that we had our heads down and we allowed ourselves to be dependent upon foreign nations for things that are vital to our needs. And that was quite evident during the pandemic. I think the president has been concerned with making it more in America, including manufacturing of those things that are necessary for our well-being. And while that is on his agenda and that is part of his Inflation Reduction Act and his Infrastructure Act, they're moving towards this. We're going to be more self-reliant on the things that we depend upon for our healthiness and our well-being. And so I think that we're moving in the right direction. Do I think we've moved there fast enough? No. But we know that we got caught off guard here. We know that. And that was quite evident during the pandemic.
Now we're out to Plainfield. We've got Carol joining us on the line. Hello, Carol. Welcome to the call. Go ahead with your question.
Thank you. Thank you, Congresswoman, for being available this evening. I'm not sure this is a question, but a hearty concern about saving the democracy that you talked about a moment ago and all of the values that are so important to all of us. Like so many of us, I grow more concerned by the day concerning the upcoming presidential election. With the utmost respect for President Biden and his family, this is not looking good. Do you have any comments tonight about what's ahead of us? My wife and I live in Plainfield. We're part of the LGBTQ plus community. We literally are in our late 60s and have chosen not to move until after this election. So frightened are we that our rights are being eroded by the administration that may come into power. Can you say anything? I'd like to have some feeling that there's more discussion going on than just feeling that President Biden is going to take the ticket.
Well, I think that President Biden is going to take the ticket. And I think President Biden said most recently he wouldn't be running if Donald Trump weren't not the expected nominee from the Republican Party. And I don't want you to listen. I agree with you about democracy. It scares me to death as well. But I don't want you to be so afraid of the polls that are coming out right now. They're not unusual, even for a sitting president. President Biden has shown us, irrespective of being 80 or 81, whatever he is, that he has done more for this country and putting us on the right pace with jobs and salaries and bringing more things to our country and making sure that we're working with our infrastructure and our healthcare and all those things. There's no reason to believe that he's not going to be the next president of the United States of America. We simply have to make sure that people recognize that this threat to our democracy is not some esoteric narrative. It is a true possibility if the wrong person is elected president. But if you're asking me if there's going to be, I don't see there being another candidate on the Democratic ticket. I pray his continued health, like I pray for everyone else's continued health. He's not demonstrated that he's not able to be the president of the United States. He's been a good president for this country during very difficult times, and he took us out of this pandemic. And there's been more job growth, and Wall Street is doing better under him, and so is Main Street. And so we need to be encouraged, and we need to make sure that no one who is eligible to vote doesn't go out and vote. And so we need to be talking to our neighbors, our friends, our co-workers, our social gatherings and let people know that there is a sense of urgency out here. But we, the people, have control of what happens in this country. And there are more people like you and me who believe in this democracy than there are supporting the other side.
It looks like we have time for just one more question, and it's going to Susan in Monroe Township. Susan, welcome. Go ahead with your question now.
Thank you. Thank you, Congresswoman Watson, for this opportunity to speak. One of my questions was that I'm hoping that you and your colleagues are encouraging more younger people to get involved in our government, especially in the Democratic Party. Also, I was looking at the news tonight about the state of Colorado, how the Supreme Court ruled that Donald Trump is ineligible to run on the ticket, on the Republican ticket. Why can't New Jersey and other blue states follow suit? Why can't we do this? I'm going to leave it alone because I know.
I don't really have the answer to that. I did not know that Colorado determined him to be ineligible. I do not know that there is a constitutional prohibition for him to be a candidate. Do I think that he morally should be a candidate? No, but I don't know that there is a legitimate constitutional prohibition against that. Now, as far as young people are concerned, Susan, let me tell you, we try very hard to get young people engaged. And, out of the tragedies of the mass shootings in schools, we're seeing more young people get engaged in public service and becoming more activists. And we've got a young guy in Congress right now, Maxwell Frost, who came to us out of his activism. And so we're seeing more and more young people get engaged. Not enough. We got a lot of work to do, and we need to continue to do that. We also offer internships, and internships are available in all the congressional offices. And we want young people to apply for those internships because we know that once we get them involved in the good work that we do on behalf of others, they get hooked and they recognize just how important public service is. So thank you for that question.
So, Congresswoman, as we wrap up this call, do you have any closing remarks for us?
Yeah, I think we need to do this more often because I like talking to my constituents, and I really appreciate the questions that came back to us. If we weren't able to answer your question tonight, if you have another question that you'd like answered, please feel free to contact our office and give us that information, and we will follow up for you. We believe in serving our constituents, and I am very proud of our district office and their outreach in our communities. They're very willing, very able, and please impose upon us to be helpful to you. That's why you've given us this opportunity to serve you. And God bless you. Have a happy holiday. Be safe and secure. And please talk to everybody you know about the importance of staying engaged, pay attention, and vote when it's time.
Thank you, everyone, for joining tonight's live telephone town hall with Congresswoman Bonnie Watson Coleman. If you haven't spoken to a member of our team yet about subscribing to the e-newsletter, simply stay on the line, and at the sound of the tone, spell out your name and email address slowly, and we'll get you enrolled. So thanks again for joining. We hope you stay healthy and safe, and have a great night.